The Battle of Sedan. A Second Battle of Sedan was a Second World War battle fought during the French campaign. The battle was part of the German Wehrmacht's operational plan codenamed Fall Gelb for an offensive through the hilly and heavily forested Ardennes, to encircle the Allied armies in Belgium and northeastern France. German Army Group A crossed the Meuse River with the intention of capturing Sedan and pushing northwards towards the Channel coast, in order to entrap the Allied forces that were advancing east into Belgium. As part of the Allied Dyle Plan strategy, Sedan was situated on the east bank of the Meuse River. Its capture would give the Germans a base from which to capture the Meuse bridges and cross the river. Should this occur, the German divisions could then advance across the open and undefended French countryside, beyond Sedan, and to the English Channel. On the 12th of May, Sedan was captured without resistance. In the following days, the Germans defeated the French defences surrounding Sedan on the west bank of the Meuse. This was largely achieved by the Luftwaffe. As a result of German bombing and low morale, the French defenders were unable to mount a coherent defence. The Germans captured the Meuse bridges at Sedan, allowing them to pour forces including armour across the river. On the 14th of May, the Allied air forces, the Royal Air Force and Armée Écoutée de l'Air, tried to destroy the bridges, and prevent German reinforcements reaching the west bank. The Luftwaffe prevented them from doing so. In large air battles, the Allies suffered high losses which depleted Allied bomber strength in the campaign. The crossing of the Meuse enabled the Germans to break into the strategic depths, or undefended rear, of the Allied front and to advance to the English Channel without significant opposition. The French attempted to launch counter-attacks against the German-held bridgeheads from 15 to 17 May, but the offensives fell victim to delay and confusion. 5 days after consolidating the bridgeheads at Sedan, on the 20th of May, the German army reached the Channel. The victory at Sedan achieved the operational goal of Fall Gelb and encircled the strongest Allied armies, including the British Expeditionary Force. The resulting battles destroyed the remaining French army as an effective fighting force, and expelled the British army from the continent, leading to the defeat of France in June 1940. The battle at Sedan was instrumental in the fall of France. Background: German plan. On the 10th of May 1940, the Wehrmacht invaded Luxembourg, Netherlands and Belgium. In the Netherlands, the Germans made steady progress. By the 12th of May, parts of the German Army Group B was closing on Rotterdam and Amsterdam, while in central Belgium the Germans were close to reaching the Dyle River east of Brussels. In response to the invasions, the Allied First Army Group, under the command of Gaston Billot, containing the French 7th Army, French 9th Army, French 1st Army and the British Expeditionary Force, advanced to the Dyle River in order to form a solid front line as part of the Dyle Plan, a defensive strategy to halt the German advances in Belgium. However, the offensive by Army Group B was a diversion. The main thrust of Fall Gelb was to be conducted by Army Group A through the Ardennes in Luxembourg and southern Belgium. Once these lightly defended areas were negotiated, Army Group A's 19 Panzer Corps, under the command of Heinz Guderian, was to strike into France at Sedan, located on the Meuse River. Its capture would enable a German advance into the undefended depths of France and to the English Channel, into the rear of the Allied mobile forces advancing into Belgium. The result would be a strategic-level encirclement. For the offensive, the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht gave Army Group A the most powerful concentration of German armour and motorized forces. Although Army Group B was allocated 808 tanks, over 1/4 of the total German tanks, they were largely light tanks such as the Panzer I and Panzer II, as opposed to the Panzer III and Panzer IV. B. The heavier tanks were handed over to Army Group A as it required the best machines to conduct the critical operation at Sedan. Army Group A contained 1,753 tanks of the heavier types. Impenetrable Ardenne. Following the First World War, the French General Staff had ruled out the idea of a future German thrust through the Ardennes-Sedan sector. The French were certain such terrain could not be crossed by tanks. Marshal Philippe Pétain described them as impenetrable. Maurice Gamelin described the geographical feature as Europe's best tank obstacle. The barrier of the Meuse and Ardennes appeared to be a sound strategic defense feature that a future enemy could not get through or go around. The French concluded that at best, a German assault through the Ardennes towards Sedan would not reach the Meuse until 2 weeks after the start of any German offensive, taking between 5 and 9 days to penetrate the Ardennes alone. The French assessments were less credible in the light of military exercises carried out in 1938. That year, General André Gaston Prételet took command of maneuvers which created a scenario whereby the German army launched an assault with 7 divisions, including 4 motorized infantry divisions and 2 tank brigades. The French side's defenses collapsed. The result was a defeat of so comprehensive a nature that the wisdom of publishing it was questioned lest morale be damaged. As late as March 1940, a French report to Gamelin named the defenses at Sedan the last fortified position on the Meuse, and the last before the open country of France, as entirely inadequate. Prételet had correctly identified the landscape as relatively easy terrain for armor to cross. At most, he concluded, the Germans would take 60 hours to reach the Meuse and take 1 day to cross it. This estimate was to prove only 3 hours too late. The Germans achieved the Meuse crossing after just 57 hours. The French army authorized fresh attempts to increase the strength of the fortifications in the autumn of 1939, but severe winter weather prevented the pouring of concrete and the delivery of the necessary materials. On the 11th of April 1940, General Charles Hunziker asked for another 4 divisions to work on the defenses but was refused. French defenses at Sedan. The French defenses at Sedan were weak and neglected. The French had long believed that the German army would not attack through the Sedan sector as part of the concentrated effort, and only Brigadier General Pierre Lafontaine's French 55th Infantry Division, a Category B division, was allocated to this sector. The Maginot Line ended 20 kilometers east of Sedan at La Ferté, where Fort No. 505 constituted its most westerly position. Sedan was a part of the extended Maginot Line that ran north behind the Meuse River. Between Sedan and La Ferté lay the Stenay Gap, which was a stretch of unprotected terrain not covered by French defenses and natural obstacles. This was the reason a significant number of French generals insisted on strengthening this sector, while ignoring Sedan. As the French constructed further fortifications, Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft picked up the activity and reported it. The steep slopes on the banks of the Meuse, added to what appeared in photographic reconnaissance to be a formidable barrier of bunkers and defense lines, caused Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, the commander-in-chief of Army Group A, to question the wisdom of Guderian in choosing Sedan as the point of maximum effort. To identify how strong these fortifications were, a team of photographic specialists were called in to evaluate the pictures. Their analysis concluded that what appeared to be strong fortified positions were just the construction sites of half-built bunkers that were, to all intents and purposes, empty shells. The contribution of the specialists tilted the Sedan attack plan into Guderian's favor. General Hunziker was happy to rely on concrete to ensure the safety of Sedan, as he rejected the idea that the Germans would attack through the Ardennes. The Second Army built 52,000 cubic meters of concrete fortifications along its front, but very little in the Sedan sector. Only 42 bunkers protected the Sedan bridgeheads on the outbreak of war in September 1939, and an additional 61 were built by the 10th of May. However, by the 10th of May, most of the bunkers were incomplete, lacking gun port shutters for the artillery casemates. Some of the bunkers lacked rear doors, making them vulnerable to infiltration by infantry. To the north of Sedan, on the northern bend of the Meuse, the town of Glare overlooked the crossing points on the river, which was to be where the German army would deliver its heaviest blow. There was a gap of 2 kilometers between Bunker 305 at Glare and Bunker 211 next to the Pont-Neuf bridge. This allowed an attacker coming from the north to use the good road routes through the Flenius and Menches-Glare axis to enter Sedan from the north. The defenses at Sedan also lacked any mines. The French Second Army was guarding a front of 70 kilometers, and was given only 16,000 mines. Of that number, 7,000 were given to the cavalry divisions that were intended to delay a German advance through southern Belgium, as well as to blockhouse points along the Franco-Belgian border. That left 2,000 for the defense of the River Meuse. Of those, the 55th Infantry Division got 422. Not all of these were laid, and some barriers were moved during the bunker construction in the Sedan sector. German approach is the German army advanced through southern Belgium on the 12th of May. General Ewald von Kleist and Guderian clashed over where the main point of effort should fall. Kleist was Guderian's immediate superior, commanding Panzergruppe von Kleist, consisting of 41st Panzer Corps and 19th Panzer Corps. Kleist pressed for the main point to come at Flies, further west than Sedan. Kleist argued that the blow would avoid a double river crossing at the Meuse and Ardennes Canal. Moreover, the blow would strike at the dividing line between the French 9th Army and the French Second Army. Guderian saw things differently, and pointed out that a thrust along the lines of Kleist's plan would put the flank of the advance within range of the fortress artillery at Charleville-Mézières, some 25 kilometers northwest of Sedan. The shift of operations further north would also disperse concentration and disrupt the intense planning of the German tactical units, who had been in training for the Sedan attack and an advance northwest for months. He also felt that a regrouping period in front of Sedan would delay the assault for 24 hours and allow the French to bring up reinforcements. Kleist agreed that such a delay was unacceptable, so he agreed to Guderian's plan. Nevertheless, while Kleist accepted the folly of the Flies detour, he insisted the offensive concentration point should be made west of the Ardennes Canal. Kleist reaffirmed this in a letter to Guderian on the 18th of April, but when operations began, Guderian ignored this completely. Guderian had wanted a large 20-kilometer bridgehead at Sedan and the rapid occupation of Ston and the high ground surrounding Sedan. Guderian's plan for the 13th of May was straightforward. The 2nd Panzer Division in the north was to form the right flank of the assaulting force when it reached the Meuse near Donchy. The 1st Panzer Division, reinforced by the infantry regiment Großdeutschland, a battalion of assault engineers, and divisional artillery of the 2nd and 10th Panzer Divisions, was to make the main attack by crossing the Meuse just north of Sedan and seizing the heights of La Marfie overlooking the city. The 10th Panzer Division was to cross the Meuse south of Sedan and protect the southern flank of the corps. Throughout the day, large masses of troops and equipment assembled north of the Meuse in preparation for the river crossing. Forces involved German forces. The German forces consisted of the 1st, 2nd and 10th Panzer Divisions. The 1st Panzer Division under the command of General Major Friedrich Kirchner had on strength 52 Panzer IIs, 98 Panzer III, 58 Panzer IV, 40 Panzer 35 and 8 SDKF Z265 Panzerbefehlswagens. The 2nd Panzer Division, under the command of General-Lieutenant Rudolf Weil, had to hand 45 Panzer I, 115 Panzer II, 59 Panzer III and 32 Panzer IVs. It also had 16 SDKF Z265. The 10th Panzer Division, under the command of General-Lieutenant Ferdinand Schall, had 44 Panzer I, 113 Panzer II, 58 Panzer III, 32 Panzer IV and 18 SDKF Z265. In total, Guderian could muster 60,000 men, 22,000 vehicles, 771 tanks and 141 artillery pieces. He could also call upon 1,470 aircraft. Part of Guderian's problem was the lack of mobile artillery. He had no intention of halting the breakout in order to wait for additional artillery units to be moved into place to assault Sedan. Instead, Guderian requested maximum support from the Luftwaffe. For the first few days, the German air arm would be used mostly in support of Army Group B. Most of the air support over Sedan was to be provided by Luftflotte 3. Initially, only limited numbers of air units were to be used, but the Luftwaffe's workload was greatly increased nearer the time of the battle. The Luftwaffe was to commit I Fliegerkorps 2, Fliegerkorps V, Fliegerkorps, and 8 Fliegerkorps. These units came from Luftflotte 2 and Jagdfliegerführer 3. The most significant unit was 8 Fliegerkorps, nicknamed the Nahkampffliegerkorps, which contained Stoe's Kampfgeschwader 77, a powerful concentration of dive bomber units equipped with the Junkers Ju-87 Stuka precision ground attack aircraft. This powerful air concentration numbered some 1,470 aircraft, 600 Heinkel He-111 and Junkers Ju-88 medium bombers and Dornier 17 light bombers, 250 Ju-87s, 500 Messerschmitt Bf-109s and 120 Messerschmitt Bf-110s. French forces, in the sector of Longwy, Sedan and Namur, where the Ardennes and the River Meuse meet. The French 9th Army and French Second Army were made up chiefly of poor-quality divisions. Reinforcements were minimal, and those units were equipped with obsolete weapons. The resources at the disposal of the two Series B divisions, the 55th and later 71's infantry divisions, who were to bear the brunt of the attack, were weak. They had almost no regular officers and they had not been broken into war conditions by being in contact with the enemy. The 55th Infantry Division guarding Sedan had little time for combat training, as its time had been spent in construction work. The division consisted mainly of reservists, most of who were over the age of 30. Little attempt was made to improve the poor combat quality of the division. One officer, First Lieutenant Dellis of the 1st Battalion 147th Fortress Infantry Regiment, was arrested and confined for 15 days for ordering firing practice with a 25mm anti-tank gun in a nearby quarry. The division's commanding officer, General Lafontaine, put more faith into fortifications than training, as he believed it would compensate for the weakness of the division. The men of the division lacked the confidence and will to fight when the battle took place. The organization of the French 55th Infantry Division was chaotic. Most units had been involved in construction work and were constantly moved to different tactical positions. Of the 9 companies in position by the 10th of May, only a few had been holding the respective positions for even a few days and were not familiar with them. One of the premier infantry regiments, the 213th Infantry Regiment, was removed from the line altogether and was replaced with the 331st Regiment. In some cases, infantry regiments were made up of several different companies from several different battalions from different regiments. For example, the 295th Infantry Regiment's 6th Company, 2nd Battalion, was made up of 4 different companies which were drawn from 3 different battalions belonging to 3 different regiments. Such actions damaged the cohesion of the units that were initially strong. The 147th Fortress Regiment was the backbone of the 55th Infantry Division and was to occupy the bunker positions on the Meuse. At the start of mobilization, the unit had high morale and very good cohesion. Because of the constant changes in organization, however, the unit's battalions were torn apart again and again. To relieve the 55th Infantry Division, the French 71st Infantry Division was ordered out of reserve and into the front line. The presence of the 71st Infantry shortened the front from 20 to 14 kilometers along the Meuse. This would increase the density of fighting strength in the immediate area, but such a move was only partially complete by the 10th of May, as it was scheduled to be completed on 13-14 May, 3 days after the German attack. Although the 2 divisions had 174 artillery pieces, more than the German forces opposing them, they had to share that force between them. Both divisions were short of anti-tank and anti-aircraft guns, a critical shortcoming.